Hello, everyone. Hey, somebody type something. Usually, when there's 3 or 4 people in the room, people are saying hello, and I'm not seeing anything. I'm worried that I set something up wrong when I set up the chat. Okay. Thank you, Daphne. All right, it's working. Y'all just weren't talking yet. Usually, people are saying hello as they're coming in. Anyway, I'll give it a minute. Hello, Ed. I give it a minute before we officially start. All right, let's begin. Start with the Persodicesa. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Excuse me. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Three vows. Fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present. It fills our sacred space, guards our minds from wrong thinking. Fragrance of this incense unites us with virtue, mindfulness, and wisdom. We offer it on behalf of all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for refuge. Being one with the Buddha, I resolve to each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for refuge. Being one with the Dharma, the gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for refuge. Being one with the Sangha, in the spirit of universal fellowship, and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies, downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. Let's do a 20-minute silent meditation tonight. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now, and reciting the sutras, hearing the dharma, and training the mind. Great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to all ancestors of this Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. Let their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for the health and well-being of those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, and those ministering to the sick. We pray for those suffering from violence, for the oppressed, the imprisoned, and all refugees. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabe sata sadahantu avera sukajivino katang punya phalang maihang sabe bhagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings spring from the good we have done. Hello. It's nice to see so many of you here. So before I start the Dharma talk, a couple of announcements and reminders in case you missed last week's. So starting next Wednesday, we will be in person again at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of West Volusia, which is where we used to meet a long time before COVID. And I'm going to try, one of the reasons we hadn't already started meeting there was because of Wi-Fi. I didn't want to abandon those of you who can't be there in person. And so I wanted to make sure that we could still live stream. So fingers crossed. They have Wi-Fi. I'm going to go in tomorrow and with my laptop, make sure things work. And so we will hope for the best. But I think it'll be fine. If they've got Wi-Fi. I mean, I've streamed from White Sands Buddhist Center using their Wi-Fi. It was the setup was challenging because of the size of the space and everything. This will be a little bit more like what I do now. Only there'll be other people chanting. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. And you can expect it to be a little rocky at first. Just expect it. Anyway, but it'll be fine. The other announcement I wanted to make, I think I mentioned this last week too, but I'm not sure if it was a for sure done deal at the time. We are having another session. That's a Zen retreat at White Sands Buddhist Center on December 7th through the 11th. And if you want to know about that, email me and I'll send you the details. And I'll be sending out an announcement to everybody. So you'll get that information via email soon. Anyway, if you want to do it, don't wait around before you let me know, because we'll cap it at 25. We're being a little bit more aggressive about making sure that people who reserve are actually going to be there this time. This last time we had some no-shows, but anyway, it'll be good. And it'll be a little cooler time of year. It'll be a better time of year, I think, to be at White Sands. Anyway, and the other announcement, the other thing that's important. So tomorrow and next Thursday, we will still be meeting at 6 on Zoom. It's possible, I haven't figured it out yet, whether Brandon will be available to lead the Zoom meeting on the 15th or not. I can't be there. I'll be at St. Augustine with Ringo Starr. So, that particular concert was actually scheduled before COVID, and it's been canceled and rescheduled several times since then. So Um, hopefully, it'll actually happen this time. And so, anyway, Brandon may lead that meeting, or we might just cancel it. And then the other thing is on the following Thursday, the 22nd of September, which will be the first Thursday of autumn. We're going to move the meeting time to 7 p.m. I asked that question to the regulars who normally come on Thursdays and in the email, and all I've gotten back from that has been pretty good, pretty positive. In fact, there are people who can't make it on Thursday at 6 who'll be able to be there at 7. So I think this will be a good thing. Oh no, Chris, look harder. And didn't you? Aren't those electronic ticket? Didn't you get those via email? Should be, surely it's on your computer somewhere. You need to work on that. Yeah, because we made reservations for it back then. I can't remember when it was supposed to be. It was like March or April of 2020, and well, you know what happened in March of 2020. So yeah, I've seen him before, a long time ago. My son was I think my son was 8 or 9 years old, maybe. And we went to see him in Orlando with the All Stars. It was wonderful. It's he puts on a good show. Anyway, so on to Buddhism. So there's a couple of questions that I've been asked recently, and actually 2 or 3 times each of these questions have come up in different settings and contexts, and they kind of relate to one another. And so I figured I should talk about these. I've talked about them before in various ways, but so the first question is, who or what is Buddha? So, and actually the kind of related question, the way it's actually been asked at least twice that I can remember just in the last few weeks, is how many Buddhas are there? And the other question is kind of related and has to do with the term Mahasattva, which comes up. So when we chant in the services during the sessions, and also during the service at White Sands, there's a place where we chant all Buddhas throughout space and time, all Bodhisattva Mahasattva. All Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Mahaprajna Paramita. And people ask, like, what does this mean? And who are all these Buddhas throughout space and time? And what's a Mahasattva? So I'm going to make an attempt to discuss these a little bit. So they're you would think these would be pretty straightforward questions with pretty straightforward answers. But Buddhism, because it started in India and it spread and encountered other cultures and other Asian cultures, and then it spread into, to the U.S. where things are into the West more generally, and things kind of continue to evolve. And it's a living religion, not a museum piece. So it's not like you can say, well, this is Buddhism right here, because it's more fluid than that. The answers can vary a little bit from one school of Buddhism to another. And even from one cultural view of Buddhism to another, and then in different contexts. So I'm not going to go into the whole Zen concept of ordinary mind is Buddha and stuff like that tonight. It'll be a little bit more of the sort of straightforward stuff, but well, who knows? I might touch on that kind of thing a little bit. So anyway, probably most of the people who watch this stream, either live or later on, probably came to Buddhism from some other religion, most likely Christianity or Judaism, and
most likely, heard about the one historical Buddha. As I said, the one historical Buddha, so, because we know of exactly one historical Buddha, which is Sakyamuni. So Sakyamuni means sage of the Sakyas. So the Buddha, he was a member of the Sakya clan or Sakya group. Um, India, the structure was somewhat like the feudal structure in Europe a little bit. Um, and so there were different groups of people, like there would be the different clans in Ireland and Scotland and all that, kind of like that. So the Sakyas were a group of people who lived in a certain region in India. And so he was a Sakyan, and Muni means sage, like Magi, sage, wise person. So Sakyamuni, the sage of the Sakyas. His birth name, well, he's known by a couple of different sort of given names. Gautama, which is probably most accurately his name. Siddhartha is often used as to describe it, that and and that works too. So Siddhartha, Gautama, Sakyamuni, those are all referred to the same guy. Um, Buddha is a title, means awakened. So the Buddha being the awakened one, but not just the awakened one, but the awakening one. So there's I might have talked about this, touched on this recently at another talk, but there's in Theravada Buddhism, when you do a contemplation of the virtues of the Buddha or a contemplation of the Buddha, he is the awakening one. So he didn't just awaken, but he opened the gate to awakening to others. So we awaken, if we awaken, because of his compassion. And so this is important, the awakened and awakening one. This, I'll mention this again a little bit later in a little different context. So he's the only historical Buddha associated with this world that we know of. Well, the only historical Buddha, because the only worlds we know we have history for and historical time for is this one. He was, born in about almost 2,600 years ago in northern India, in a real place that really exists. And you can go to where, place where he was born now. There's an archaeological site there. It's in Nepal and Lumbini, which, back then there were no borders between India and Nepal at the time. And the custom in those days was when a woman was going to give birth, she would travel to her parents' house to do that. And so his mother was basically a queen, more or less. His father was a king, more or less. And so when she was going to give birth, she left the palace to go back home. And on her way, when it, felt tired, stopped to rest, gave birth standing up, holding onto the branch of a flowering sal tree or sala tree, depending on how you want to say it. And that spot is is still marked today as one of the 4 pilgrimage sites. And he lived for 80 years. He became, at 29, he went into homelessness, practiced the holy life for 6 years, was enlightened at 35, spent 45 years teaching, established Buddhism. That's the Buddha. Now, the Buddha talked about there being other Buddhas in this world before him. We don't have any history of those. There's stories, there's references in the Jataka tales to at least one of them that I'm aware of, Kassapa Buddha, who was the one before Sakyamuni. Do they really exist? Again, they're ahistorical. We don't know. Probably not. I mean, but So that particular individual, it was a real human being. We have a fair amount of evidence that he actually did exist. And, his aim was to find the root cause of human suffering, existential suffering, like many philosophers and psychologists and spiritual leaders have sought. And he found a way, and then he taught it, so that it's still here with us now. The teachings still exist over 2,500 years later. If you want to stop there, that's okay. I mean, you've got, if you want to practice Buddhism, that's as much as you need to know. You don't particularly need to know about the other Buddhas, but they're kind of useful, some of this stuff. And so, what I'll try to do is kind of share this other information in a way that hopefully can help you in your practice in some way. But if it doesn't, that's all right. Buddhism is not about what you believe in. It's about what you do. In fact, I was at Florida Dharma one time, and I was sitting and talking to somebody in the evening, and they used the term Buddhism. And this Thai woman said, don't talk about Buddhism. It's not an ism. It's Buddha sasana. We say Buddha sasana, Buddha practice. And there's a significant difference. Some religions are very much about the belief system. Some religions are very much about the practice system, orthodoxy versus orthopraxy. And so Buddhism is much more about a path of practice. However, faith is still an issue in Buddhism, a little differently than some. But when we start talking about some of these other Buddhas, faith becomes more of a factor. But this will blow your mind. This is a koan. You can work with this one between now and the next time you see me. In Buddhism, faith is a practice. It's not just, I believe this. It's believe this, and how do you work with that? How does that change the way you view reality? And how can you use that to guide your own awakening? A lot of people, we start talking about matters of faith and walls go up, because to a lot of Westerners, and maybe Easterners too, I don't know, but to a lot of people, the idea that you have to have faith in something means we're getting ready to lead you down a road that you probably don't want to go down, because we're going to pull you away from reality. In Buddhism, even faith is a way to get closer to reality. So don't be afraid of that word. Anyway, when I do one of the reasons that this question comes up, how many Buddhas are there? Who are all these people? Is because of the incense offering that we do at White Sands, and also that I use on Thursday nights. I respectfully bow to all directions of space, all realms, past, present, future, all Buddhas, the honor Dharma, the enlightened Sangha, the permanent three treasures. I respectfully bow to the future-born Maitreya Buddha. And then I also refer to the great love, great compassion, Amitabha Buddha of the Western Paradise. So the first of those is the future-born Maitreya Buddha. So what does this mean? So eventually, the idea is that eventually, the teachings that Sakyamuni Buddha gave will all be forgotten. Just like we don't know what Kassapa Buddha taught, or any of the other 6 Buddhas that Sakyamuni said had existed in this world before him. Nobody knows what they said. He said the day will come, some thousands of years hence, when there is no more Buddhism, where the Dharma is lost to us. And at that time, Maitreya Buddha will come and bring the teachings. So this is kind of interesting, I think. For a long time, I didn't have much use for that idea. Like, what do you do with that? But if you think about it, the Buddha awakened to something. He didn't create that something. He awoke to something. That something was already there to awaken to. Truth was there. He just became enlightened to it. And so this continuation of enlightenment, I think, is a real key to Buddhism being more than just a therapy or a philosophy or whatever. It's something that we can see, that we can use as a way to be in contact with that which is much greater than ourselves. Wow, I got to talk faster. So I'll skip over some of the finer points. So Maitreya Buddha, the future born Maitreya Buddha, even when this teaching has all died out, when this is the last lineage, there's still Buddha, and there will still be awakening. Even when this world comes to an end, even when this universe comes to an end, there will be Buddhas that return to awaken those beings that are there. So when we say sentient beings are numberless, I vow to awaken them all, we can do that. There will be a way to awaken. So the next Buddha that most people encounter in terms of Chris, that's a very good question. So the question, for those of you who don't see the chat, because the chat doesn't play with the replay of the stream, I don't think. Chris asked, do we just train our minds and forget about everyone else? No, we don't. And the Bodhisattva vow is to free everyone else, all other beings. That doesn't mean that we don't engage socially. That's what the precepts are for, though. Part of the training the mind is to train the body. We don't just train the mind. We train body, speech, and mind. And so part of the practice is to refrain from doing harm, to not kill, to not engage in harmful sexual activity, to not engage in harmful livelihood, and so on. And so, yeah, we're responsible members of a society. And somebody was asking me said something about, well, if I love everybody, I can treat everybody like crap or whatever. I don't remember exactly the way the conversation went, but implying that if we just walk around feeling compassionate, we don't have to actually act compassionately. But the reality is, it'd be a lot better to act compassionately than to feel compassionate. And there's this concept in Japanese psychology: lead with the body. You don't wait around till you feel a certain way before you act. You act, and then your mind comes along with that. So sometimes you can have compassion well up in your heart towards someone when you recognize their suffering, even when they're being really difficult to get along with. Sometimes you'll recognize, you've been practicing it, you'll recognize this is a suffering person, and react to that with kindness. But if you don't, you can still be kind. And when you're kind, despite feeling like you want to punch somebody, that will actually change your mind a lot better than changing your mind will change your actions. Does that make sense? So, no, it does matter what we do, and it's not sufficient to just train our minds. We have to train what we do also. Okay, so anyway, Amitabha Buddha. Let's talk about that. So in the Pure Land Sutras, which is the texts that embody Pure Land Buddhism, it is said that there's this lineage of 52 Buddhas that lead down to Lokasvaraja, who is a Buddha who appeared in the time of Amitabha. Actually, the monk's name was Dharmakara. Dharmakara encountered this Buddha, Lokesvara, and had an awakening moment as a result of his encounter with him and hearing the Dharma. Now, this is not in this world. This is another space and time. But Amitabha, or Dharmakara, vowed that he was going to become a Buddha. And he was going to become a Buddha in order to help all beings, even those who weren't particularly smart, those who didn't have time to go off and become monks and practice full time, and all that kind of stuff. Everybody would have a path to awakening. And so this is one of the most significant Buddhas you will hear referred to around the world. But this is not a historical Buddha. This is not a Buddha from, historical earthly time. This is beyond space and time. Is it metaphorical? Maybe, I think Amitabha is I see Amitabha as the embodiment of oneness. Amitabha, it actually goes by two names, Amitabha, Amitayas, infinite light, infinite life. So infinite wisdom, infinite enfolding of beings, embracing of beings. So the acceptance of everyone into the possibility of awakening, the reality of awakening, because all you got to do is believe this sincerely, not just say it, but really give yourself over to this idea that awakening is possible to you, and that is rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land. But the story is Dharmakara, a monk, encountered a Buddha named Lokesvara, made a vow to become a Buddha, and as part of his being a Buddha, he was going to create a Pure Land in which everyone could become enlightened. Anyone who said his name with sincerity or said Namo Amida Butsu, that's Japanese, Amida, it could be reborn in a Pure Land. So those are the kind of the main Buddhas that you'll hear about. But there are countless Buddhas referred to in various places. The Lotus Sutra talks about, all these different Buddhas from all over the place coming to hear Sakyamuni talk. And, that Buddhas and Buddha lands as numerous as the sands of the Ganges times the number of sands in the Ganges and stuff like this. It's basically sort of a poetic device to get you to sense the infinite qualities of awakening itself. So I think it's really a way to try to get you in touch with what, for lack of a better term, you might call the divine. But so you can work with that if that's helpful to you. So the other question is Mahasattvas. What is a Mahasattva? So all Buddhas throughout space and time, all Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Mahaprajnaparamita, the perfection of great wisdom. So a Mahasattva is a great being. I've heard a little different explanations of this. There's different kinds of enlightened beings. There's Buddha and Buddhas. There's Pacceka Buddhas, which are Buddhas who, without studying with anyone, just kind of somehow or another stumbled upon dependent origination and became enlightened and became Buddhas, but they didn't tell anybody. There are arahants who practice the Dharma until they're completely freed from the cycle of coming and going. And sometimes you'll hear, this idea of great being applied to all of those. But generally speaking, it's those bodhisattvas that really take on almost Buddha-like qualities. So Avalokiteshvara is a great example of a Mahasattva, not just someone who is a Buddha to be and becomes freed, but one who really is there for us. Samantabhadra, Manjushri, Ksitigarbha, those bodhisattvas have that quality of really, really being there for us in really special, specific ways. So that's Maha, great, Sattva, being. So these are the great beings that we're referring to. So why does this matter? Again, if you just want to think about Sakyamuni Buddha and the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, and that helps you deal with your stress and makes you a better person, so you live a better life and live a more authentic life, that is absolutely fine. But if you want to be a little bit more expansive in that, if you want to feel a connection to, or experience, not just feel, but experience a connection to the divine, awaken yourself to that in that level, while these other Buddhas would be kind of important to that understanding, realizing that Buddha is a much bigger concept than just the one guy. Anyway, I hope that was useful to you. And, feel free to email me questions and stuff like that if you want to. So it's 8:00. We have to finish. Say the four great vows. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Friends, I respectfully remind you, life and death are of supreme importance. Time swiftly passes by and opportunity is lost. Each of us must strive to awaken. Awaken. Take heed. Do not squander this life. And I will see you. Yes, me too. Looking forward to seeing you in person next week if you can be there. Until then.